And we're live. Welcome everybody here to the Lakers Lounge. I'm Anthony Irwin, joined on this glorious Thursday afternoon where you and I accidentally are going live at a more, I think, optimal situation or time
Okay.
for people to tune in, right?
All right.
Normally you and I record at like 10 your time, 12 my time,
Right.
and nobody like you can't really not work at 10 o'clock on a Thursday.
Yeah. So you're saying you're trying to target the lunchtime, the Pacific time zone lunchtime crowd here.
Yeah. And that was actually when we were doing the hook on like Fridays, right? Then you could probably go live at noon my time, 10 your time, because nobody wants to work on a Friday. But like on a Thursday, you still kind of have to work.
Well, I think didn't I we start I think we started at 9 o'clock in the morning, and then that moved to 10, and then shortly before the unfortunate demise of it wasn't the demise of the hook, it's the demise of the shortly before the demise of the hook when the hook was
I died.
Well, okay, fine. I think you switched it to 11, which I like argued against, but you switched it to 11 my time, 1 your time, because that had a better chance of grabbing the lunchtime crowd in the Pacific time zone where most Lakers fans are. But I think we only got to test that theory for a week or two before before the unpleasantness. Let's call it
that. Yeah, we are. But
what makes this Thursday glorious, by the way?
What's that?
You called this Thursday a glorious Thursday. What makes it glorious?
Because we're talking. How about that?
Well, then I guess every Thursday is glorious.
Yeah, most of them. So today, though, we are going to be talking about Christian Wood and Bismack Biyombo and Wenyan Gabriel and
how delicious strawberry lemonade seltzer water is.
Jermichael Green and basically anybody the Lakers can bring into their 14th roster spot, which you and I agree is probably going to be used on a center of some type. Is probably how I see this going. That is the glaring hole left to fill on this roster. Before we get to that,
Rob has admitted as such that the team is looking for another big for the 14th spot.
And I don't think it took Rob admitting as such.
Well, I mean, it's not like we don't have to speculate, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
We don't have to both think it's going to a center of some sort, to use your language. It's going to a big. Rob told us that.
Yeah. Before we get to that, though, I have two important things to get to.
Okay.
One, I added to our library of sound and video this.
Just say no. Just say no to drugs. Just say no. Just say no to drugs.
All right. You know what the best part about that is?
They're all on drugs.
I mean,
except for AC Green.
If you've watched Winning Time, then the second season I think is coming out pretty soon. But if you've watched Winning Time, you have a guess of what those times are like. But that was also what
they're all wearing sunglasses, which is kind of a dead giveaway.
Probably early mid 80s, right? I'm guessing sometime in there. That's 83, 85, somewhere in there. I didn't look at the roster close enough to make that determination which season it is. But so that's what, 40 years ago or so, 38, 40 years ago or so.
Yeah.
Pat Riley is probably like 60 in those clips, and he looks great. Pat Riley is like 112 years old right now and is still the best looking dude everywhere he goes.
It's legitimately unbelievable how it's not just good looking, but it's like the charisma and suave. I'm legitimately jealous of the amount of game that guy has at 135.
I don't know if he has game, but he definitely has a presence about him and has some charisma and some swag and some. He's quite debonair, to use a word from those days.
Which is funny given where he started. If you watch Winning Time.
Yeah, I don't know. I
he didn't always have that.
Very interesting. I thought it was very interesting. I don't know how accurate that is. I mean, none of the stuff they didn't get it from nowhere, but he's pissed at everything. Pat Riley hates everything. He just hates everything. These days, maybe even I'm gonna leave Jerry West alone. I don't know how accurate that was. Obviously, I have met Pat a few times, but I wouldn't say that I really know him. So I don't know how I don't know, destitute is probably not the right word, but how like without purpose he seemed at the beginning of the show when he was kind of just wandering around the beach and didn't know what to do with himself when he was done playing. And then kind of like slinked into assisting Chick. And so I don't know how accurate that was, but if it's probably somewhat accurate just with the volume turned up, like the rest of the stuff, the rest of the characters. But if that's the case, then yeah, he's come quite a long way in those 40 some years.
The other bit of big news here before we get to Christian Wood, and as people file into the viewing experience here,
and as Aaron filibusters
before we get to Christian Wood, is so out here when it comes to ice cream, there are basically like two options. Well, three if you count like Bluebell, which you can get from like any grocery store or gas station, whatever. That is the best ice cream out here. The Bluebell stuff is the best stuff out here. But if that isn't the direction that you want to go to and you want to go to like an ice cream specific place, you can either go to Dairy Queen or you can go to Baskin Robbins.
All right, no Cold Stone.
Nope, haven't seen a Cold Stone out here.
Okay.
And so for a while, because Dairy Queen only really offers their soft serve, which is all basically vanilla that you can add toppings to, but is basically vanilla, Avery's favorite ice cream for a long time, for I would say the vast majority of her life, has been vanilla ice cream.
Okay.
And that really scared me. Nobody's favorite flavor of ice cream should be vanilla.
I mean, vanilla's good. It's fine.
Nobody's favorite anything should be vanilla. Nothing.
Vanilla's
it's like
fine.
saying like your favorite fruit is a banana. Like, no, it can't be. I refuse. It's like your favorite salad dressing is ranch. Nope. No.
Ranch is disgusting.
Yeah, I mean,
haven't we done this before? That white condiments are bad.
Yeah, generally like mayo.
Mayo is the worst. I will not eat mayonnaise.
Yeah,
like a drop of mayonnaise in anything ruins it. Mayonnaise is like terrible. Ranch is awful. What?
Yeah. Well, like blue cheese dressing also kind of shitty.
Blue cheese is better. Sour cream's not particularly good.
Yeah, it has to be like certain situations where it's like
it's not really good. Yeah. Right, because all the best stuff you make with sour cream, you have to put a bunch of stuff in it, like toasted onion dip, French onion dip, or whatever is delicious because you put a bunch of MSG and dehydrated onion pieces in it and stir it around. You get some chips. Now you're talking, but sour cream by itself, no, that's not good.
Well, anyway, for the vast majority of Avery's life, which again, she's 4 years old, so we aren't talking for that long, but I would ask her, like, what's your favorite flavor ice cream? What's your favorite kind of ice cream? And she'd go, vanilla. It's like,
like Gallinari.
It hurts me. It hurts me, you know? So finally I took her to Baskin Robbins and I introduced her to Rainbow Sherbet. Mm-hmm. And today her Gigi and Pop Pop stopped by to pick her up and take her out for ice cream. And apparently they went to Dairy Queen.
Is that your parents or your wife's parents?
Wife's parents, my in-laws. Mm-hmm. So Gigi Pop Pop take Avery to Dairy Queen, and they ask her what kind of ice cream she wants, and she goes Rainbow Sherbet. And they go, what?
No, we ain't got that. No. No, we ain't got that here. But y'all don't have no ice cream trucks that go around your little hood, your little non-hood, your little private gated community.
Only if somebody cul-de-sac. Only if somebody rents one specific to come into the neighborhood. Which those are fun because those will serve like alcohol.
That is white people renting an ice cream truck?
Actually, the one time it's happened was the black family across the street rented the ice cream.
They welcomed you in, so I have concerns about them. And I told you, Texas black people are a different breed of black people. Those are different black people. Texas black people are like country, kind of like the deep South, but then they've got like cowboy vibes with the belt buckles and drinking Coors Lights. And I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It was
you guys were playing dominoes across the street though, so that's point in their favor. Okay.
They were drinking Busch Lights when I showed up.
Oh God. Yeah. No, that's not okay.
But it was like they also had like a cocktail counter or like a hard liquor counter.
How much Hennessy was there?
It's like 3 bottles.
Okay, all right. Okay, now we're talking.
It was a good amount of
Crown Royal. Crown Royal.
Yep.
Okay,
and apple.
Okay. No, no.
Well, and I said they had
No,
both.
wait,
I said
this
they
is an
had
outfit.
both.
Okay.
The apple one is disgusting.
Disgusting. All the flavored ones are disgusting. They're way too sweet.
Yeah.
The maple is awful. The vanilla is awful. Oh, ugh,
Yeah.
terrible.
Again,
Terrible.
vanilla anything, not great. And then so Pop
extra rare is good. Crema black.
Pop calls and goes, "Hey, where do we find rainbow sherbet?" And we had to tell him that there's a Baskin Robbins down the street, and that made me really happy. Like actually a proud father that my almost 4-year-old daughter is saying that she likes flavored ice cream. That was good to
All right,
see.
we like it. So you gotta go. We gotta. Do they have Benihana close to you? You know, at the end of Benihana, you get the vanilla, the green tea, and the rainbow sherbet. She can make her choice. Make your selection
Actually,
at any time.
the Benihana close to us is actually called Kobe Steakhouse.
That's not Benihana.
It's the same stuff.
No, it's not. It's not Benihana unless it's Benihana.
It's the same stuff. They use the same dressings. They use the same sauces.
It can be a teppanyaki style place. Not hibachi. Hibachi's different. Those are teppanyaki. It can be a teppanyaki place, but that does not make it Benihana. Benihana is very specific to Benihana. They may use similar ingredients.
It's all the same stuff.
It is not.
It's like slightly sweeter than the.
Oh, so then it's not the same.
It's like slightly sweeter. Like
it's not the same.
When you come out here, I'll take you there, and you could tell me how close it is to Benihana. Anyway,
am I going to get you to drive to Dallas at the beginning of September? I'm going to Dallas in the beginning of September.
For what?
My California Golden Bears. Oh, wait, by the way, yeah, my California Golden Bears, mom's hat. Shout out mom's hat. My California Golden Bears are actually traveling to Denton, Texas to play the University of North Texas. So I will be in Dallas for a few days. Saturday the 2nd is
they might win that one.
How absurd is it that a Pac-12 team, you know what? They're traveling to North Texas. What, you don't go on the road to these. Never mind.
Yeah. Okay. All right. We've filibustered long enough.
The one thing I would like to talk about less than
the Cal Bears
talking about potential Lakers moves is how bad Cal football is. Okay, let's go.
All right.
Now I'm in the right frame of mind.
Minutes before we recorded, and I guess I'll put it in the I will put it in the comments here.
I haven't been on Twitter recently. What did I miss?
Oh, just something I wrote.
Oh, okay.
Nothing crazy. But I wrote about the center situation, and the post, which is now, for those of you who would like to subscribe, is now in the comments. But yeah, so I wrote about the latest that I have heard and the latest that is being reported, and a little bit on Rob Pelinka's comments about the position and the direction that the Lakers would like to take there. And I just kind of filled everybody in as best I could on what is taking so long for this to develop. And it was funny, the free agency period, the offseason was really just kind of humming along. And then Damian Lillard requests a trade, James Harden requests a trade, and the offseason stopped. the offseason.
I mean, yes, it was kind of at the end anyway. That just took it from 90% complete to now it's complete traffic jam. Yeah, it was slow on the 405. Yeah, and it was gonna take you an hour from Santa Monica to get to the airport.
It was like an accident had just happened, and everybody started slowing down. Yeah. You know what I mean?
And now it's a 12.
You're kind of moving, and now you're oh, come on.
Yes. Now it's completely stopped. Yes, it was close to done anyway.
So yeah, and that's basically what I said. That's what the difference is between this current situation and say when Kawhi was making his decision that was holding up the entirety of the league, basically. Yes. That offseason still hadn't really figured a whole bunch of stuff out. This time, most teams are just kind of filling out their roster. You have 10 or so guys on your team, and you're figuring out how many 10? Guys. Well, like there are some teams I think that still have like 9 roster spots filled.
No, that's not possible.
I think there are. I think there's like a
No.
handful.
Find me somebody. That's not possible.
I
There's
just
nobody.
saw a
There's
tweet
no
about
free
it.
agents left.
I just saw a tweet about it
There are
from
no
somebody I
free-
trust.
There are no
So,
free agents left. So you're getting like
there's at least 3 that you and I are going to talk about.
yeah, but they're all minimum guys. My point is there are plenty of free agents left, but there's nobody like they're all minimum guys.
Yeah. Well, but that's my point though. Is that like you're filling out like the last few minimum guys on your roster,
after,
depending on how many you need.
After all the minimum guys that everybody wants have already decided.
I mean, I'm not saying the choice. I mean, that's
all right.
The title of this thing is called "If Not Christian Wood, Then What?" Right? So,
Okay.
like that is kind of that. I mean,
does
lay the
if we're
groundwork
averaging it out, maybe it's okay because I think OKC, I believe at present has 19 rostered guys. So they're gonna have to make some decisions because you cannot go to camp with 19 guys.
Rudy Gay, Oklahoma City Thunder legend.
That's why they had to get rid of him because I think he was the 20th. I think they still have 19.
Yeah,
they was 20.
Still have work to do.
Yeah, 4 guys. They still have to get rid of 4 guys. Actually, I think you can go to camp with 17, but once the season starts, you can only have 15.
Right. So the situation as we know it, or is the best that you can talk about it and the best that I can explain it, is that you have free agents right now who it behooves them and their team to wait this out because they know what offers and options are already out there on the table. And once they make that decision, you have opportunity cost that, if a trade happens, if OKC does whatever they're going to do and whatever, if Chicago decides to use their injured player exception, you don't want to cost yourself that opportunity by making a decision right now. That's why it was so surprising that Dario Saric would make his decision when he did to sign with the Golden State Warriors before he necessarily had to. But anyway, the Lakers, as I am told, and as has been reported, and frankly, as Rob Pelinka basically came out and said, when he said he prefers a center who can space the floor to play potentially next to Anthony Davis, the Lakers are interested in Christian Wood. I mean, he is the guy that is at the very top of their free agency preference list.
That's sort of what he said. What he said was.
Well, he didn't say Christian Wood specifically.
No. But he phrased it a little differently. What he said was not specifically somebody to play alongside Anthony Davis, but what he said is it makes sense. It probably makes it's another big, and it probably makes sense to have a varied skill set for choices among those bigs. So that intimates that you want somebody to space the floor because that's not what Jackson Hayes does. So,
which intimates that Christian Wood is the guy at the top of their free agency list.
Take from that whatever you will, but I do not think that is a stretch. That it's not a stretch of logic to intimate that. I would not claim that it does not strain credulity to intimate that. How about that?
So, now, as I was writing what I put up today for Substack, I was doing some asking around, and it isn't necessarily a consensus stance that Christian Wood is everybody's preference within the Lakers. There is some preference there to bring in more of a bruising type, whether that's Bismack Biyombo or bringing back Tristan Thompson, that the Lakers would maybe look a little bit more muscle to deal with the Nikola Jokic's of the world. And the center position in general in the West is bigger, I think, than people think. You have Jokic, you have Rudy Gobert and Karl Anthony Towns, you have Zion Williamson and the Viking that they have next to him. Steven Adams eventually is going to be healthy.
You're talking
again
about Jonas Valanciunas.
Yeah, there you go. You have Steven Adams playing for Memphis, and you have Jaren Jackson Jr. playing for Memphis as well. So, there is a lot of size up front in the Western Conference. And I can understand why the Lakers
Zoo and Plumlee are big boys.
Yeah, although Zoo might... if I had to predict it, I think Zoo's probably going to be a Philadelphia 76er. Although there's a lot of notion there, there's a lot of reporting that indicates Daryl Morey is just willing to bring James Harden into camp, and James Harden is dusting off the fat suit, and we'll see where that all winds up.
Sabonis is a big boy. Aiton's a big boy.
Yeah,
So continue your point. Victor
so,
Wembanyama is a big boy. I wouldn't call him bruising, but he's a big boy.
So yeah, I think the notion that the Lakers would like to play more two big lineups, whether that is starting or playing them, is I think sensible, given the size that we just listed in the Western Conference alone. So I do kind of wonder if and this was interesting over the last couple of days, as Wood is still kind of waiting for his opportunity and Biyombo is waiting for his opportunity. Dan Wojcicki of the LA Times reported that Chicago is now all of a sudden more of a threat to sign Wood because they have more than the minimum to offer by way of that injury exception that they have to work with. To which I would say, and I'm not questioning Dan's reporting here, to which I would say, if that was the case, then I think we would have heard a little bit more momentum on that front to this point, right? If Christian Wood had a bigger money offer on the table, then he would have taken it by now. So yeah, like we're all just kind of waiting for the Dame trade, the Harden trade, and the dominoes that fall shortly thereafter. But I think it does warrant a conversation to discuss the benefit of a Christian Wood, the basketball player, him versus Bismack Biyombo or another bruising center, if it makes some sense to bring back Wenyen Gabriel and maintain that continuity and all of that good stuff. So let's play some dominoes. What do you think?
All right. What, Big Six?
Sure, why not?
Do we have to talk about the Lakers, or we're just going to play dominoes? We're going to stream us playing dominoes.
We have to hold our dominoes up here.
Yeah.
So yeah, I let's start with Christian Wood though, because I think he is the likeliest eventual.
Hold on one second. Let's frame this, because there was a lot that you just talked about, and I think it's important. Like for some,
I did kind of monologue there. My bad.
Yeah, no, it's fine. It's your show, but and it's fine if it's not your show. But I think some context is important here, because I used to say on the hook all the time, and it's one of like the phrases that I'm known for, I guess, and like it's stuff around the league that I just talk about that has become what I'm. When people, there's like a handful of things that I say that people. Hennessy is delicious is probably the main one, but I also one of the other axioms about. I mean, it's life in general, but about the league is deadlines create activity or create action.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think part of the reason why you're not hearing stuff right now and there's no like specific movement, we'll get to the Dame and Harden part of it in a second, because I think that is a factor. But I think that was a bigger factor in things not happening a couple weeks ago, because there are like markers in the NBA calendar where things happen, right? There's the trade deadline. There's, you have to, by March 1st, you have to have your buyout guy in for him to be eligible for the playoffs. Once the playoffs start, two-way guys can't play in the playoffs, so they have to be converted, that kind of thing. Then the draft is also one of those markers, right? Because if you want the draft pick, you're going to need to make the trade now. Mm-hmm. And then there's, a June 30th now where free agency can start. And then there's the 6th with the moratorium ends and people can actually sign. So now the next deadline this is the time of the NBA calendar where it's just slow, right? Because the next deadline is you want, if you're going to have a guy on your team, you probably want him in for camp. So the next deadline is the start of training camp, which is depending on which team, is late-ish September, right? And a little later than mid-September. So part of the reason maybe why you're not seeing, you mentioned it, right? The minimum guys are the minimum guys. They know what they're getting at this point. They know what their offers are. So like, what difference does it, what is the incentive for those guys to sign now? What difference does it make if they sign now or if they sign before camp, right? It behooves them to wait it out as long as possible to see what shakes loose, Dame trade, Harden trade or not. It still behooves them and teams, by the way, to kind of like wait until they need to do something. There isn't like the extra month and a half or 2 months or so of having somebody like in your program between now and the start of camp, where like most team personnel, this is when they leave to go on vacation anyway. Like it kind of makes sense for both sides, not any individual team or player, but players and teams. At this point, it kind of makes sense to say, okay, let's kind of see what shakes loose, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe there's a summertime injury and some team becomes more needy at a certain place, so they're willing to up their offer to who would have been a minimum guy. Like Nikola Mirotic just a couple hours ago became a free agent because his European club, he's not with them anymore. Does that mean he's coming to the NBA? I don't know. The rumors are he's probably going to sign with a different European team, but like things evolve.
Do you think he goes to Milwaukee to play with Bobby Porter specifically? Yeah.
All right, I saw people like talking about how great of a fit on Twitter, how great of a fit he'd be with the Warriors. I'm like, he got a guy that already punched one dude and got him out of here, so maybe he'll feel more comfortable. I don't think Mirotic is a minimum guy, by the way, but so I think it does kind of make sense for both sides to sort of wait, like irrespective of any bigger moves, Dame trade, Harden trade. The other thing is about playing two bigs. There's a couple sides of this. I do think the Lakers are going to play two bigs more this year than they did last year. Unfortunately, the options last year were, like DeAndre Jordan started the first game. So, and then Thomas Bryant
played a finals game though.
What's that?
DeAndre Jordan played in the finals.
He did. Thomas Bryant did not, by the way. Thomas Bryant, who wanted more playing time, went to Denver. I mean, good for him. He got a ring. He was backing up DeAndre Jordan, by the way.
Yeah.
So I do think the Lakers are going to play, and it's two things. One, maybe there's something to the like Jokic is just enormous part of it. My response to that, and do you want to prepare for that? My response to that is like the physically overwhelming centers in the NBA are Joker and Embiid, pretty much. So do you want to like construct a roster like specifically to go against those few guys? In the regular season, yes, I admit you have to go against Joker. You're probably going to have to beat Denver if you're going to win the West, or have somebody beat them for you.
Mm-hmm.
But my response to that is like, if AD can't guard him, you lose. So like, I don't know how much I want somebody else guarding him, unless it's to let AD roam as Rui and LeBron did a little bit in the playoffs. So, but I do think you're going to see a little bit more too big because. For the two reasons. One, AD has said over and over and over, he doesn't want to play center full time. He will when the moments matter, but he doesn't want to full time. And it's kind of a nod to JaVale and Dwight, who beat up Joker and gave him problems in that series in the bubble a couple years ago. It's a different Joker now.
I was going to say the problem with that is that I don't think Jokic can just like get beat up anymore.
I mean, it's a different Joker now. But so that's the part that as it relates to Rob, whether it's truthful or not, and I do think the Lakers are going to play more two big lineups. I think that's kind of overstated. Mm-hmm. I don't think Rob's lying. I think he's exaggerating, and I think he should be. And the reason is it's clear that the Lakers want another big.
Yeah,
they may just want another big as a depth piece, not even to play so much. But you don't want prospective guys that have a bunch of options because they're minimum guys and are choosing their situation. You don't want to tell them you're not playing. You want to intimate that there's time available for them. So I think some of it is a negotiating tactic. Mm-hmm. He's using, publicly using the media to get his message out there that if you're a big, there is opportunity to play. If you're a minimum big and you have a bunch of minimum offers, other than you think you have a chance to win with the Lakers, other than you want to live in LA, all the wonderful things that come with being a Laker. I think the other part of it is he's suggesting that maybe you're going to have an opportunity to really play. How much kind of depends, right? And what we're going to get into, how well does whoever fit with AD in the times you want to play a two big lineup. But the Lakers have invested a lot this offseason in wings. And it's probably the strength of their team. And so I think you're gonna, and this is what everybody's wanted, right? Like more big wings. The Lakers don't have enough big wings, and finally you have it, and now we're like, we're switching away from that when it's finally like
I can confirm that
the
is
cupboard. The cupboard is
at least listeners of the show probably heard that a lot.
Right. Vando and Rui and Prince, like there's a pretty decent stable, and LeBron, right? There's a pretty kind of switches back and forth between big and wing. There's a pretty decent stable of wings. Now, I would say it's probably the strength of the team. So I think you're going to want to see those guys, and the Flyer and Cam Reddish. I think you're going to want to see, for all the people that complained that there weren't enough 6'7", 6'8" guys on the Lakers. Now there finally are a bunch of 6'7", 6'8", 6'9" guys on the Lakers. I think we're gonna see a good bit of them. So now I just went on a monologue.
So I think yeah, adding a Christian Wood basically like rounds up your total versatility across the roster. You can now do you could play just about any way that is necessary, right? You could play a bunch of guards if you want to play a bunch of guards. You could play a bunch of wings if you want to play a bunch of wings. And you can go supersized and still maintain spacing if you do that with Wood and with AD and LeBron. You mentioned like the notion that Wood or Biyombo or whatever free agent right now is selecting the best situation for them. And this is where I'm going to come off as a homer, and I'll cop to that. Mm-hmm. But when you're looking at like just situations, and if everybody, there is some discussion here about like, again, I mentioned Chicago potentially having more to offer because of that injury exception. Problem there is like, again, like I said, I think that would have happened already, or we would have heard more about it. And also the Chicago Bulls are just like hilariously cheap. Jerry Reinsdorf is a shit owner in my opinion, but like, and we don't have to go back and forth on that.
He won 6 titles.
Yeah. He had that Michael guy.
Hey, Dr. Bus ain't win without Kareem and Magic and Kobe and Shaq.
Dr. Bus didn't run Magic Johnson out of town.
No, he did not. No, he
right?
did not.
Reinsdorf has that.
Like, Kobe wanted to leave.
Did he?
No, but Kobe wanted to leave.
Uh-huh. Yeah, and then and Jerry Buss being like the freaking G that he was like, nah. We can't trade you.
I'm not trying to tell you that Reinsdorf is a good owner, is a great owner, the best owner. He's not a shit owner. He might be kind of cheap. He's not a shit owner. He won 6 titles. He presided over 6 titles.
Ask any Bulls fan that you talk to now how they feel about Jerry Reinsdorf. I guarantee
because they've been irrelevant since Jordan left.
That's because Jerry Reinsdorf is a shit owner.
He won 6 titles. He won 6 titles. No, like Robert Sarver is a shit owner. They've won nothing. He's a terrible human being, and he's cheap. Donald Sterling is a shit owner.
Okay, so he's Jerry Reinsdorf is slightly better than
slightly. He won 6. He presided. He owned the team while they won 6 titles,
and ran off the reason they won those 6 titles, and has been irrelevant since.
You're not wrong about that. You are not wrong about that. And other than Derrick Rose, like 2 years of Derrick Rose, they've been irrelevant. You're not wrong about that. Still won 6 titles.
Oh man, this is my favorite. This is the thing that gets me the most fired up that you and I talk about is Jerry Reinsdorf.
How dare you have me defending Jerry Reinsdorf? How dare you?
Oh man. All right. But yeah, what I was going to say when I was going to sound like a super homer here is I really think this is the best situation for Christian Wood. Yeah, you can talk about like Miami could potentially open up more money depending on the trade that they make for Damian Lillard and stuff like that.
You asked me about that, right? Because
just really quick though, like if I were Christian Wood's team and I was looking to,
you mean like his representation and
like his team, his peeps. Wow, I said that was white people stuff right there. Sure was.
Sure was.
What I meant by that was like the little candy birdies and stuff. Sure. His little marshmallow friend.
Didn't you had Kirk on the other day? Didn't Kirk say that? How am I going to put this? Sensitive. His representation was like sensitive and was like sending stuff, DMing random fans and media people.
Yeah.
Is that right? Yeah, I think I heard that.
He's kind of
Which is why on playback you were like, well, never mind. Go ahead.
All right. So I think though, like if you're Christian Wood's team, if you're the people advising Christian Wood, I think the Lakers is the best place to rehab his image and the narrative surrounding him right now. The disinterest in towing the line, as Dan Wojcicki phrased it in his article the other day, the empty stats that and that claim about him that has followed him throughout his career, the ineffectiveness on defense and how that gets highlighted depending on which situation he's playing in, all of that stuff. There are counters to that with the Lakers. You're not great on defense. Cool. You're going to be next to a fucking pterodactyl in Anthony Davis. You're not. Your numbers are kind of empty or whatever. Well, they won't be if you're scoring in second units and keeping the Lakers afloat when either AD or LeBron are sitting. The disinterest in towing the line and all of that stuff. Yeah, the Lakers have a ready-made culture, and they've developed one with LeBron and AD and with Darvin Ham and what they built last year. Like all of that stuff, if you're just talking about basketball situation, this is a clear win, I think, for Wood, if that is the direction that he's going in here. And also, the Lakers have a track record of rehabilitating those narratives about players, right? We just saw Dennis Schroeder go from a veteran's minimum kind of contract after being a joke and almost being out of the league. He goes from that to making $13 million with the Toronto Raptors.
Good
Malik
Dennis,
Monk.
by the way.
Yeah, Malik Monk, right, was a minimum guy that the Lakers brought in. He makes $10 million and launches himself into a really fun playoff run that we saw from him last year, right? Like the Lakers have this track record on and off the court of allowing players to improve their. Kyle Kuzma is a good player. I really like Kyle Kuzma.
Mm-hmm.
He's a freaking like Instagram like influencer, whatever, like in part because he won a championship with the Lakers. Like,
I mean, it worked even before that, right? And Austin, you know, I'm not going to get in Austin's pockets, but Austin has a very nice
shoe deal.
Well, yeah, but also he has a if you're driving around LA for those listening / watching in LA, he has a handful of billboards for I think it's Drake Law Firm, I believe it is. It's a law firm, and he got a very, very nice sum of money to have his picture up on the billboards and do one appearance. So shout out Austin.
That's what I mean, though. Is it like if
I think we need to separate the on-court part of it and the opportunity for all the things that are connected because you're a Laker, right? Why? Because there's a difference between the benefit of being a Laker off the floor and all the like endorsement stuff that comes with that, and rehabbing your on-court, not your image on court, but rehabbing your value, right? As Dennis has done, because the first time Dennis left, he was still almost out of the league.
Look, some people are just too far gone, JD.
Yeah, I mean, Lonnie, who had some good moments this year and won the.
There's
Lakers
a question about Lonnie. Do you want to hit on that? Somebody,
sure.
Where is it up here? I gotta find it. This is great audio. In
any event, I just think it's important to separate because being a Laker means you're going to get off the floor opportunities just because you're a Laker.
Here we go.
Being a Laker and then getting a contract somewhere else, I think there is a little bit of Laker shine, but it's less so than off the court, is my point.
Anything Aaron can share about why Lonnie chose a minimum with Brooklyn instead of being back in LA?
A couple things.
Opportunity.
I'm not sure that it should be, and I'm not saying it's not. I'm just saying let's. I argue with Anthony about this all the time. Let's not present what we assume as fact and then argue against it, right? So that assumes that the Lakers offered him a minimum deal and he had a binary choice. I'm not saying the Lakers didn't, but I wouldn't be so quick to just say that that's fact.
That would be crazy if they didn't even offer him.
Okay, that's fair, but I'm providing context. We don't know, is it like, I haven't seen, have you seen any reporting from anybody you trust that he was offered and he chose something else. I agree that it's a reasonable assumption, but it is an assumption. Yes, the answer to that is opportunity. Lonnie wants to play, and he wants to play. He wants to play a bunch, and Anthony thinks the Lakers are a little thin at guard. But we also thought
that
the Lakers.
Even something I think? Like, I think that they're just like kind of objectively thin at guard.
You think they are abnormally thin at guard, and what I'm saying is like they're just like kind of a normal NBA rotation at guard. Like you're worried about Max being pressed into duty, even though you really think that Max is going to be good, and I don't disagree with you necessarily, but you're worried about Max being pressed into duty as a fourth guard, right? And like a second year guy that you feel good about, that's not uncommon for that person to be your fourth guard. So I think that Lonnie saw that he was going to be in the pecking order after the three guys that are going to play a bunch and Max, and decided he's probably going to get more time, better opportunity in with a different team. The same, by the way, same for Malik. Yeah. And if you are a minimum guy, I mean, look, you want to win, obviously, but if you're a minimum guy, I think your number one focus is getting time to show that you're not still a minimum guy next year. So
yeah,
that's what it's an opportunity thing, playing time opportunity thing for Lonnie.
Yeah, I think the thing with Lonnie would have been like, hey, your opportunity might not necessarily be there, but the Lakers could have theoretically paid him a little bit more to make up for that opportunity. Also, he could have competed for a spot and potentially won one from someone. There's also the notion that D'Angelo Russell is eventually going to get traded. So, like, the opportunity thing, I get it, and I understand where he was coming from there. And I'm not saying that the Lakers definitely did offer him that additional money and he turned it down to go play with Brooklyn. The most I've heard was that they made a similar offer to Lonnie once it became clear he was signing at the minimum. But
here's the other part of it is like Lonnie was a starter at the beginning of the year, and by the end of the year was not even in the rotation.
I think a lot of that, though, was kind of circumstantial. Like, I actually felt that.
Sure,
I was really
fine, but Lonnie went through that last year.
Yeah.
And that's going to make you feel like, okay, well, if I think I'm better, if I think, I'm at least a rotation guy, and the same head coach didn't think so last year at the end of the year, I think I may be behind for whatever reasons. I think I may be behind, like starting the race from a little bit farther back for this year.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, the thing with Christian Wood and the situation for Christian Wood, would you agree with what I was saying? Was that too homerific?
About that it's
like of the situations he could go to, so other than maybe Miami. I think Miami you can make a lot of the same claims.
Okay, so generally everybody in the NBA wants to live in a handful of cities, right? It's LA, it's New York, it's Miami, it's San Francisco. Phoenix now, I mean, NBA guys want to be in Phoenix, but Phoenix was so bad for so long that they didn't get guys. Now that they're good and it's Phoenix, now you're seeing like minimum guys, Eric Gordon, who probably could have gotten more than the minimum somewhere. Like a lot of the most coveted minimum guys are in Phoenix, right? Opportunity, and they want to live in Phoenix. Not opportunity, and they feel good about the Suns' chances of winning, all of that. Yeah. So yes, I agree that the Lakers generally are everybody's best situation. Not always specifically though, but in the case of a big who can shoot the ball a little bit, yeah, I mean, I do think that there's an opportunity for a player like that to have a good on-court situation. The Lakers were in the Western Conference Finals last year. I think this roster is better than that roster, pending another year of mileage on LeBron. So, yeah, I mean, I think that the Lakers are a good fit for that type of player, but everybody's preferences are different, right? For some guys, it's literally I'll go play anywhere for $1 more. I don't care if I get $1 more somewhere else. I'm going there.
Joe Johnson.
That was the Manny Ramirez. I think that was, my brother used to always say that about Manny Ramirez, and he respected it. He was like, that dude could get $1 more to go play in Kansas City, like leave a Boston team.
That was Joe Johnson. That was also true. That was always the case with Joe Johnson.
Which is fine, right? Like you're allowed to prioritize whatever you want.
I think when he was bought out, I think he literally got like the amount of money that he got on a prorated something or other was more wherever he wound up, and it was like
$8,000 more.
Yeah, it was like everybody, like when he was bought out, people were like, oh shit, like he could actually do some stuff still, and people were like trying to figure out where he might go, and then somebody pointed out actually he might be able to make like $1,300 more somewhere else.
We're just like, so people are allowed to prioritize. People are allowed to prioritize whatever they want, right? For a lot of guys, it's money. I would say for most guys, it's money. Where you're living also matters. And a lot of the reporting on the Dame, why Miami? Yes, they were in the finals last year. He respects Jimmy Butler. He's friends with Bam, but a lot of it is he really loves the city of Miami, right? And he wants to live there. Mm-hmm. So it's a ton of factors that go into this.
I thought that like the whole Miami thing was a coincidence when he was on IG Live and Welcome to Miami was playing on in the background.
Yeah, and did you see? I saw it last night.
It's wild how all these people think we're just like stupid.
I think it was last night on IG or Twitter. I saw. I don't know where he is. Jimmy Butler's in an Asian country. I don't know where he is, but somewhere in Asia. And somebody was like running their mouth at him, and he like made I think it was a camp or something like that. And he just like made basically just a standstill corner three. Mm-hmm. And then like, everybody was all riled up and he starts doing the Dame time celebration. Yeah. Complete coincidence, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I do agree that generally, I mean, it's one of the reasons the Lakers get a lot of guys. And a lot of guys want to come there. Now, to be fair, that was more the case in years past. Now, basically everybody, 70% of the NBA lives in Los Angeles in the offseason anyway. So it's less specific about living in LA. That is still a draw. But, all the stuff you mentioned before about the off the court stuff that, endorsements and the shine of being a Laker is a thing. But everybody has their own priorities, and, that's fine.
Let's talk about Christian Wood, the player, and like Bismack Biyombo, the player, because those are the two best players on the market right now. There's a lot of conversation as far as like who would prefer what. I know, I think I heard that Pete prefers Biyombo and that True prefers a player more like Biyombo. But
here's the thing: there isn't a player more like Biyombo. There's Biyombo.
Well. Yeah, but like,
I mean, we would all love like, yeah, I would prefer a player more like Biyombo who's 7 feet instead of 6'9". I mean, okay, cool, but that dude's not available.
Right. Well, but again, we're talking about archetypes, and you guys are all like closely enough affiliated with the Lakers that I have to be careful about my phrasing there. So like, that's what I'm doing.
You didn't do that for Pete. You just said Pete prefers guy X.
Yeah, I know. I caught myself as I was talking.
And then got it for
my
True.
bad, Pete.
All right, got it for True.
So
what type of player might Darius like?
I don't think it matters with him, right? Well, I guess he does write for .com.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
I don't know. I think Darius is on vacation. I think I don't think he did that show. Okay. So, but like those
True's on vacation. True's in the Bahamas.
True. It doesn't matter where True is. He probably did it from a cabana.
He may have.
But yeah. So I personally prefer Wood to Biyombo.
Okay.
In terms of archetype of player or whatever, which way would you lean here?
So I think we got to be careful because usually and those guys too, I listen to their show sometimes when LFR, when they talk about archetype of player. So like the big thing is True hates the 6-man bucket getter guy, like the Jordan Clarkson, the Jordan Poole, the Tyler Hero, the Lou Will, Jamal Crawford, like that archetype of player. He just doesn't
Kendrick Nunn.
he just doesn't like. True just doesn't like. But like, so when you say like he would prefer the Biyombo archetype, I think that that's true, that he does prefer the Biyombo. No, I don't think that's true. He does prefer the Biyombo archetype, the, like big physical rim running, lob catching center that's going to block some shots and, kind of beat up on you. He does prefer that archetype. But that does, just because you have preferences of player types doesn't mean that that's the best thing in any specific situation. Like, all things being equal, I think I prefer the Biyombo archetype also. But all things are, like, each situation is unique and all things are not equal in this case.
Yeah.
Right?
Wood's a more talented player than Biyombo. Like,
he is. And I would say that any big that the Lakers bring in, you're going to want them to be able, for them to be able to have the most utility, you're going to want them to be able to play with other bigs as much as possible, right? You're going to want them to be able to play with AD, to play with Jackson Hayes, theoretically. I mean, AD is obviously the focus. But
I just consider it a
fine. I understand what you're saying, but like, and by the way, you can ask yourself, because Rob has said this, as I mentioned earlier, as we mentioned earlier, Rob has said, like, we want another big, and we want somebody who has a varied skill set from Jackson, because if that's the case, if you're bringing in a similar type of player, then, like, obviously, I mean, Jackson signed earlier, whether he was the priority initially or he was just the guy that was willing at the minimum at that time, and the Lakers liked, whatever. But like, if you're going to bring in somebody similar,
blink twice if like after seeing who is available right now at the minimum, if the Lakers kind of sort of regret Jackson Hayes as early as they did. You can blink twice.
No. And I'm not saying no that I won't do that. I'm saying no that there is no regret on the Jackson Hayes signing.
There's some here.
Why not take a flyer on a minimum guy? We heard the same thing. Excuse me. We heard the same thing about Cam Reddish some too, right? Like there's some other great minimum option that the Lakers turned down because of Reddish. Like, Reddish is a very good, and I've also talked about the second draft on this show in the Hook a lot, and kind of betting on pedigree. Second draft quickly is guys that are thought of, usually first round picks, the guys that are thought of highly, or even second round picks, guys that were like very high in their class in high school. That those are good guys to take. Rob really believes this, that those are good guys to take a flyer on, because there was that talent was there at some point. So, did they have a problem in their situation? Did they not like the organization? Did the organization not like them? Did they not get opportunity? Do they just need to change the scenery? Whatever. Troy Brown was one of those guys last year. He counts. Stanley Johnson is one of those guys, has been one of those guys. So Cam and Jackson Hayes are both lottery picks, both like pretty recent lottery picks. Hasn't worked out for them so far, but those are good guys to take minimum flyers on. So I don't understand the Jackson Hayes. It's not hate, but like the Jackson Hayes diminishment of the signing and the Cam Reddish diminishment of the signing. They're minimum guys that were seen as lottery picks very recently.
The only thing I would say, they weren't seen as lottery picks. They were lottery picks, but like,
yes, they were lottery picks because they were seen as lottery. Somebody saw something in them that made them lottery picks, is my point.
The only thing I would say, like Reddish, whatever, it's pretty clearly a clutch favor as they try to rehab his career and get him closer to whatever.
Fine, but
then
yeah, go ahead.
And then the other, with Hayes again, like I don't think anybody would have predicted that Biyombo or Wood would be available at the minimum. So at that stage of the offseason, you get the most talented big you can, and in this case, it was Hayes. Now Do I think that there's stuff to be figured out there? Not really. I think Hayes, I just don't think he's ever really going to get it. And same kind of goes for Cam Reddish. But in both cases, like especially if the Lakers wind up with one of Wood or Biyombo, the Hayes signing doesn't matter. And the Lakers have enough wings to where you aren't relying on Reddish turning it around. So in both cases, like, I don't really care.
So no, I disagree about it not mattering. Because and again, and this goes to the question of who you would prefer in that, or what type of player would you prefer? And I think we have to, as I said, not all things being equal, what do you think you're asking of? And I have an answer, but I want to know what you think. Because as I told you before, I'm always like fascinated by kind of what fans think about, and if there's some sort of consensus or groupthink. I think that's interesting in informing, people that are having these discussions actually. Mm-hmm. So what, like, if you're bringing in somebody, not the type of player, but what are you bringing them in for? What do you think they're like most? What are like the couple things that you are wanting them for? I guess is they're most important.
Like right now.
Anybody,
like
anybody in particular, not any particular player or player type, but like what is their job description is what I'm asking.
Oh, well, it depends on like the number, right? So if it's a minimum guy,
no, one of the guys that's going to be brought in now, they're going to be minimum guys.
Okay, all right. So now,
yes, as it stands now, not in general, as it stands now. For this specific team.
Because Hayes is the only other big on the roster, I think it's important that the Lakers walk away with one of Biyombo or Wood, because they are more natural fits as the backup. That makes it so that Hayes working or panning out, there's not as much writing on it. And in the case of like Wood versus Biyombo, this is why I prefer Wood. I like the idea of Wood playing next to AD if that is indeed something that the Lakers are interested in doing.
So I think that's fair, but I think there's a more important job description, and that is, what do you do if AD misses time?
Yeah.
And I mean, because it happened last year, excuse me, and the Lakers played.
It's going to happen.
Whatever. Probably.
He's like,
I mean, you certainly want to plan for it.
He's not playing 82 games this year.
Right. You certainly want to have a plan for it in place. Mm-hmm. Last year, Thomas Bryant held up pretty well offensively. He's a disaster defensively, but he held up pretty well as a starting center for 22 games or whatever it was. So I think even that has to something that has to go into the thinking, maybe even more so than what type of player or what guy do you want when all things are wonderful. Like, who do you want when in game one? I think it might be a better way to look at it, or a more important way to look at it. Like, who do you?
But even
want,
there, I think
who
I
do you
would
want
still
between
go
games 50 and 68 or something that AD is not available.
I'd still go Wood. Give me the more talented player.
That's fine. I just think that has to be part of the thinking. How about this? That is part of the thinking. I want to put it there. I think that's the most important job for the 14th roster spot, is a big that, and I don't, maybe you start Jackson Hayes in that case, and you have whoever as your first big off the bench, or maybe you start that guy and Jackson Hayes as your first big off the bench. I just think that should be the primary focus of who you want if you have the choice. Maybe not, but if you have a choice, I think that should be the primary thing that is the primary thing that is helping decide this. Ability to play with another big, alongside another big, is also on the list, but I think that's secondary to who do you want if, unfortunately, AD is unavailable for a certain time.
And then the other part of this, too, is always something that is worth keeping in mind with Pelinka, is that he likes to bet on pedigree, right? That's why, like,
that's what we were just talking about with the second draft. Yeah, and Cam and Jackson Hayes, yeah.
And Wood has the higher pedigree. He's the...
No, he doesn't. No. He does not. He's more talented, but he does not have the higher pedigree.
Between him and Biyombo?
Christian Wood was a second round pick. Biyombo was a lottery pick. I believe. I
Yeah,
mean,
but
some
like
years ago.
over the course of their careers, and as they stand right now, I think Christian Wood holds more pedigree. He's the more talented player.
Those are two. My
There's
point is, those are two
there's
different
higher
things.
upside there.
Oh, absolutely. But those are
Yeah.
two different things. The pedigree is different. Christian Wood is more talented than Biyombo. Yes, I agree with that.
Yeah, and all right, so I guess that's how I'd frame it. Is that, and this is why, again, like when Rob Pelinka is out there talking about overlapping and all of that stuff, like everything that I can throw together and aggregate to wind up at who I would predict will eventually be a Laker or might eventually be a Laker indicates that Wood is the guy. Like he's the more talented player. That's usually the direction that Pelinka likes to take. Pelinka talked about the skill set that sounded an awful lot like Wood. The I don't think the Lakers are so talented right now that you can like try to talk yourself into fit or locker room fit over talent. Like I think the Lakers are still, especially at that position, are at kind of a talent deficiency, which is kind of crazy when you talk about Anthony Davis being on the roster. But yeah, like I think, and I understand. By the way, a lot of people with in the comments are saying no on Wood, and that there's too much noise out there about him not necessarily buying in at every place and all of the empty stat stuff. Like, I totally get it. I understand the concern there. And by the way, I wanted Bismack Biyombo 2 seasons ago, before he was kind of rehabbed in Phoenix the way that he has been the last couple of years. So, like, I totally understand why some people would prefer Biyombo or even Thompson, or to a lesser degree, Wenyen Gabriel. I get it, but I think that the Lakers need more talent on this roster, and Christian Wood is the most talented player available right now.
Yeah, I mean, I just said that I think the primary factor in making this decision, and look, it may not be the Lakers' choice. The Lakers may not get to choose between the two, and they may not get either one, right?
Mm-hmm.
But
if so, we
if
blame
it is
you.
a choice, but if it is, I saw Darren Collison getting shots up the other day in Vegas.
Yeah.
If it is a choice,
did any go in? Because they didn't for the Lakers.
If it is a choice between them or anybody else, again, like I think that the overriding priority is who can give you the most, or who do you think is the best guy for the times when AD may not be available. I mean, there's like other factors, like, you started the show talking about, guarding AD, or like, if anybody
Jokic.
You bring in at the minimum, or excuse me, guarding Joker, if anybody you bring in at the minimum is like forced to guard Joker in a playoffs, like, somebody, you have more bulk, no, you lose, right? Like,
yeah.
You're done, right? Like, that ain't gonna work. I don't care who it is. That ain't.
It was like when all the teams had like 2 extra stiff 7-footers to be 6 fouls on Shaq.
Yeah, right. No, yeah. Well, Joker's too good of a free throw shooter for that.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like I said beat up earlier about Dwight. Dwight beating, and you said he can't get beat up anymore. It wasn't even beating him up so much. It was like beating him up so that he got
I think
flustered.
Dwight did.
No, it was beating him up, but not like it was. So he got the main thing was he got flustered. I don't know that Joker's going to get flustered anymore.
No,
but nobody on planet Earth can guard that dude. AD and Draymond have the best chance, I guess, but nobody, like we saw that is what we saw in the playoffs. Like, is he the best player in the world? I don't know. Probably. I still need to see him guard little point guards in the playoffs before I'm fully ready to give him that. But what we learned with definitely is that nobody can guard that dude. There is no answer for guarding him now. So I don't think that should be a factor in the decision making. Like, need somebody to guard Joker. Well, if any of these minimum dudes that are still around are who you have guarding Joker,
is your hope,
you lose. So
yeah. Although I will say that
this dude might be a disaster, and that's better than the complete disaster the other dude's going to be. I mean, okay.
And I'm not and I guess for those who were saying Biyombo makes a little bit more sense, and the collective physicality is nice to throw at Jokic so that there are no easy minutes, right? And if he spends any time whatsoever being guarded by Christian Wood, those are easy minutes. I totally understand why people would want to avoid that. But again, I just look at it as you're not going to guard that guy regardless. and you do need to keep up with them in terms of just like ability to score. And I think Wood allows you to do that better than Biyombo would, better than Jermichael Green would, better than even Wenyan would, and certainly better than Tristan Thompson would. So, yeah, for me, it's a fairly open and shut case who I prefer here. But we'll just kind of see. I want to really quickly before we go. Well, two things. I haven't been able to get this video on.
Oh, wait! Before we do this, you want your answer about Miami?
Yeah, go for it.
My homework. So you asked me about well, you can ask the question how you asked it, and then I will give the answer. But it was about Miami.
Right.
So, yeah, go ahead.
Well, so for Wood, right, there is only right now one potential place that could give him more than the minimum, and that is Chicago by way of that injury exception.
I mean, there's other places that have some cap space available
that he's considering.
Okay, there. Let's be specific. Yeah. Okay.
And the only other one, and this is kind of dependent on some other things that you are going to highlight here, is Miami, depending on the kind of trade that goes down with Damian Lillard.
Yeah, so you said you have heard that they could have more than the minimum to offer him, depending on a Dame thing. They're waiting for the Dame thing. Or I think you said Wood is waiting for the Dame trade because Miami could open up more than the minimum. But you've never seen, and you don't understand why, and you've never seen anybody explain it.
Yeah, so nobody really like it. People are just like, yeah, they could, and I'm like, what?
So okay. I dug in because I'm a cap nerd. So I dug into the cap sheet, and the answer is they potentially could, but it is exceedingly unlikely. So right now, Miami has like 1 point. They're in the tax and over the first apron, and they have like 1.7 million below the second apron. They got the Oladipo trade, got them below the second apron, which technically opens up their their taxpayer mid-level exception, which is 5 million. So theoretically, they could use their taxpayer mid-level 5 million to offer it to Christian Wood or whoever else. Practically, they can't right now. Technically, it's available to them, but they can't use it now because if you're over the first apron but not at the second apron, you are hard capped. If you use the taxpayer mid-level, you are hard capped at the second apron. So they have like 1.7 under the second apron right now due to the getting off of Oladipo money. So they have the taxpayer mid-level available, but they can't use the taxpayer. They can't use the full taxpayer mid-level because that would put them over the second apron, and they would be hard capped at the second apron. So, which I think is 182, I believe. So one possibility is that a Dame trade would be a way to free up some more money, but they would have to get off of 4 million or so, or 3.3 million. They would have to send out 3.3 million more than they take in a Dame trade to be able to use that. But that isn't practical because that would put them at the second apron. If they gave Christian Wood 5 million, that would put them at the second apron, and they would be hard capped at the second apron. And then you are hard capped with zero money to maneuver throughout the year. So practically, they probably would have to send out 8 to 10 million more than they take in a Dame trade to be able to use the taxpayer mid-level and still have some wiggle room under the hard cap to operate during the season. So possible, yes, but very, very impractical.
It's still worthwhile though if you're Christian Wood to wait it out.
Did that
yeah, it did. It did. Okay. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, because as I mentioned earlier, there's no deadline. Like,
offers aren't going anywhere.
Right. The can't.
Like the Lakers are going to be like, no.
I mean, that's possible, right? If somebody else takes the minimum offer that they have, that's possible. Yeah. But yeah, again, like the next deadline for things to start happening is training camp.
All right. The last thing here, I like having fun to wrap up my week. The last thing here is a video I found on Facebook that I think Aaron is going to
Uh-oh.
set you off. If for those of you who just tuned in
boy.
here for the basketball stuff,
Oh boy.
have a good one, everybody.
No,
But,
no. You got to no. You
the
got
backstory. The
say.
backstory on this is this girl's dad has had a lifelong. He calls it a bond, but an infatuation with reptiles, and he has two reticulated pythons
Nah.
that well, I'm just gonna
let me guess. It's a white dude.
well, you know, I'll let you find out. So here we go.
Jared likes to chill on my daughter quite a lot. She'd just come up onto the couch and wrestle on my daughter for most of it. Over the years, they've grown together. They're just very used to each other's company.
Aaron, unmute your mic.
When I've introduced Emmy to Cher, he was about 2 years old, and Cher was quite a tiny snake. My daughter would just hold Cher
What?
in her hand at the time.
What is
Now
this
Cher's
foolishness?
so big, she couldn't even lift her up.
What the fuck? No.
As a parent, I had to make sure that Cher was
Hell no.
tame and sociable to be held. I spent every day.
They got this
all the time
motherfucking
of day
python
with
playing
just getting
Barbies?
her used to human interaction.
Nah.
But on the other front, I needed to make sure my daughter
Love
genuinely
this.
knew how to be gentle. As soon as she understood.
And by the way, when
what
I
she
said I knew
needed
this
to
was a
do,
white
no
person,
grabbing, no
I should have
poking,
finished
just
because
being
that's
gentle
extra
and
white. This
respectful.
is white people shit.
That's all I needed from her was to behave.
This is
how I
insane to me.
behave. And she
I
proved
watched
that
this
to me.
whole video with my like
Turn
fist
this
ball.
off. No, turn this off. No.
So for the
Y'all playing out here with these wild animals. That's white people shit. I don't get. The tiger went crazy. No, that's a wild ass animal. What do you? No, the tiger went tiger. That python gonna choke the life out of that girl and swallow her whole. Hell no.
one of the captions later in the video is like, there are two rules. Emmy is not allowed to be alone with the snakes ever. And it's like,
hold on, wait a second. That's a 4-year-old or something. Like, why is that child alone at all?
well, that's the other part of it too is like, all right, you're not allowed to be alone with the snakes. If the snake decides to eat your daughter, there's nothing you can do about it.
Right.
Like at the very least, you're saving your daughter's life, like barely, and she is going to be traumatized forever.
I mean, I guess like if it starts like whatever coiling around her to choke the life out of her, I mean, like it happens kind of slowly, I guess. So
No.
maybe...
Have you ever seen those things attack?
Wait, like attack, like because
Because it doesn't
choke the life out of you and then swallow you whole? They don't. Like,
no, so it starts by latching on, like it bites first,
but it's not.
and
It's not
then
venomous, is it?
No, but like, all right. So this is where I'm going to get a little nerdy. So their jaws,
They're
their
like
teeth,
unhinged, right?
well, there's that, so they can eat, but like all of their teeth face inwards into their mouth.
Yeah, they're like hooks.
Yeah, and so they hook in, and so if you're gonna like, so let's say a snake starts like, trying to eat my arm. I would have to like it. If it's biting like this, I would have to stick my arm further into the snake, open up its mouth, and then pull my arm out. So you're going to have to do that with this tiny little girl first. Also, this snake, like, people don't realize how quickly these attacks happen. They bite, and then they just go, and they wrap themselves real fast.
I thought it was, or maybe it's boa constrictors that are.
Well, it takes a little while. It takes a little while for the person to actually like not be able to breathe. Yeah. Like that's
why are we talking
process.
about this? What have you
But I wanted to show you that because I was like, man, I just need to see Aaron's face. Well,
Why are white people? What are y'all doing? What type of shit is it? Where they do that?
The other rule is that she's not allowed to be there when they feed the python.
I have a better rule. There's not
because
allowed
the python because the python might like look at the food and then look at her,
like equate it to her. Do they?
Well, no. It's going to be more like it. Like the python will see like whatever little mouse that they give the python, and he's going to look at the girl and be like, "Actually, that's a bigger meal."
Well, so yeah, I think all the strange white people would say that like it's not that dangerous because it only will like, go dangerous after a human if it like has not been fed in however long. So as long as you keep it well fed, it's hell no, that's a wild ass animal.
Yeah. There was actually a family in Florida, like I forget however many years ago, but their son wanted a snake and they kept one of those little pythons in his room. Snake got out and choked him out during the night. That was it.
I mean, look, that's very sad.
It is.
But
it's terrible.
I have, and I guess he wanted it, but that's on the parents. Here's one of my like tenets of life. I have trouble feeling sympathy for those whose wounds are self-inflicted. So like if you bring a wild ass animal into your home and a wild ass animal harms you because it's a wild ass animal, like I don't know what to tell you.
Well, I mean that's where I feel bad. I feel bad for the kid, right? Because the parent is the idiot who allows the kid to have that pet and put it in something that the animal can get out of, you know? Like how are you putting it in this cage or in this glass terrarium that like it can get out? Specifically for that question. All right, that is going to do it here for this episode of the Lakers Lounge and likely this week's episodes here of the Lakers Lounge. Thank you everybody for tuning in the way that you have. We had a nice little group watching us today, and we had a really nice little group watching me last night rant and wander around the topic of Christian Wood. So thank you guys all for that. Again, you could see the link to Substack where I wrote about all of this in a little shorter form.
Go subscribe to the Substack.
Yeah. Buy Avery some donuts.
Buy Avery some rainbow sherbet ice cream. The donuts you can handle when you bet against the Lakers. Make sure that she has rainbow sherbet ice cream from Substack.
She needs both of them.
Yeah, right.
We will talk to you guys next week.